$765 million. That is how much the Trump administration is paying an energy developer not to develop wind projects off the coasts of New York, California, and Maine, as the president seeks to push fossil fuels. The Interior Department struck the deal with Invenergy to abandon its offshore wind farms and redirect to natural gas and geothermal projects. It is the third such deal this year, meaning the government has spent $2.5 billion in taxpayer money to get companies to undo offshore wind projects. Joining me now, Tim O'Brien, Senior Executive Editor, Bloomberg Opinion, and MS Now political analyst. Welcome, my friend. When you have Americans seeing surging energy prices, particularly as a result of the Iran war, and the Trump administration touting energy independence, why spend taxpayer money to reverse clean energy projects? Do Americans want their money spent this way? And by the way, what does Trump have against wind farms?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there, Alex. I think, unfortunately, as with so many things with the president, the reason he hates wind farms is entirely personal. He had and has a golf course on the northeast coast of Scotland near Aberdeen, and there were wind farms being built off the coast of that golf course, and he felt it ruined the views for people playing on his course. So he's always had unhinged views about the perils of wind farms. You know, he's come up with these stories about they kill birds, they kill fish, and they're actually bad for the environment. The reality is that there are many states in the United States that have already made great use of wind farms as energy generating sources, including California and Texas. It's perverse that we're reimbursing a series of private entities because the federal government changed policy. The risks of doing business come in many forms. That's one of them. And we typically don't reimburse businesses when they make bets on the wrong industries. The other problem here is this is a good industry for the United States to subsidize, particularly when it's difficult for small companies to break into these industries, and getting a public subsidy that helps them produce efficient, climate-friendly energy at a time when the perils of being dependent on fossil fuels are apparent, not only through climate change, but obviously we're at war with Iran right now, and Iran's ability to close the Strait of Hormuz and imperil the world's energy supplies is another good reason we should support alternatives. Yeah. And why countries like China have gone all in on it, particularly on EVs. So there's nothing good going on here. The math is bad, the policy is bad, and the rationale from the White House is driven by Donald Trump's personal whims rather than what's good for the American public.
Let's talk about the cost of the president's beautification projects, which are ballooning, Tim. The Washington Post obtained a contractor estimate for the ballroom this week. It suggests the project would cost $600 billion, half of which would be paid by taxpayers. And the president said it wouldn't cost them a penny. Remember that? And then just moments ago, we saw Donald Trump. He was there exiting off of Marine One, but we see him there in the air doing a flyover of the reflecting pool. Restoring that reflection pool now estimated to cost $16 million, not counting any potential cost to redo the project, as the paint is peeling off and it's overtaken by algae. So you factor in the many accusations, Tim, of grift. How is this all playing for the president? Does he seem to care how this is impacting voters?
I really don't think he cares. You know, remember Trump, when he was in the private sector as a builder, used to famously say, you know, another Trump project on time and under budget, even though he routinely delivered late on some of the developments he had his hands on and often went over budget. And of course, quite famously, he was so indebted on many of those projects that he had to put them into bankruptcy. And the bankruptcy costs on his private sector projects got fobbed off onto banks and investors. He emerged from it largely intact. And as we now know, used tax write-offs to pad his own or to soften the impact of his own losses. These are, again, just like we were talking about wind farms, these are vanity projects at a time when, the national debt as a percentage of GDP is the highest it's been since World War II. It's about 122% of GDP. The national debt on a dollar basis is over $39 trillion. Trump is running net deficits annually about $1.25 trillion. None of this math adds up. And traditionally, Republicans and conservatives were fiscally vigilant people. And you now have someone
Well,
who treats taxpayer dollars like a credit card.